Here is the text exactly as you provided. Number 9. The handshake. You've been taught your entire life that a good, firm handshake is the cornerstone of professional respect. It's how you greet a new boss, close a business deal, and make a great first impression. But have you ever stopped to think about how weird it is? You're literally grabbing a stranger's hand and wiggling it around. It's an intimate, slightly awkward exchange that we all just do without question. Well, let me take you back a few thousand years, to a time before business suits and LinkedIn profiles. The handshake wasn't a sign of professional courtesy. It was a literal life-or-death security check. Back in ancient times, the handshake was a way to prove you weren't carrying a hidden weapon. You would offer your right hand, the one a warrior would use to hold a sword or a dagger, to show it was empty. The firm grip was a way to make sure the other person wasn't hiding a small knife up their sleeve, and the up and down shaking motion, that was to dislodge any concealed daggers. It was a display of mutual trust and vulnerability, a physical contract saying, "I am unarmed, and I hope you are too." It was a gesture born out of necessity in a world where a handshake could quickly turn into a "shank you very much." So the next time you're closing $1 million deal with a stranger, just remember that the only thing standing between you and a fatal backstabbing is a deeply ingrained 2,000-year-old security ritual. Number 8. Saying bless you. You're sitting in a quiet office. Suddenly, a colleague lets out a violent, life-threatening sneeze that rattles the entire cubicle farm. And what's the first thing you say without even thinking about it? Bless you. Why? Because it's a polite, automatic response. But have you ever considered why we're so quick to offer divine intervention in a moment of nasal distress? The origins of this habit are far more dramatic and, honestly, a little morbid. Back in the 6th century, during the time of Pope Gregory the Great, the bubonic plague was ravaging Europe. Sneezing was one of the early symptoms, a sign that the end was near. So when someone sneezed, people would say, "God bless you," as a quick prayer for their soul, because it was likely about to leave their body. The habit stuck, even as the science evolved, and we figured out that sneezes were just tiny explosive expulsions of germs. Another popular theory is that people once believed a sneeze was so powerful it could expel your soul from your body. The bless you was a quick way to wish your soul good luck on its journey back home. Or even better, it was to ward off a demon that might try to sneak into your body during that brief, unguarded moment. So basically, every time you say bless you, you're not just being polite, you're casting a tiny, centuries-old exorcism spell on a person who just expelled a cloud of snot. Number 7. Why we knock. Knocking on a door is one of the simplest, most universal social gestures. It's a way of saying, "I'm here," and "I'm not a murderer, probably." It's an act so ingrained in us, we often don't think about what we're actually doing. But this basic habit is a holdover from a time when the world was a lot less, shall we say, domesticated. For most of human history, a door was a literal barrier. You either walked right in, or you couldn't get in at all. The very act of knocking was an evolution from a time when you would simply shout or bang loudly on a door to announce yourself. This was especially important in early European history, where homes were often small and dimly lit, and people had no idea who was outside. It was a way to say, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm a guest, not a robber with a pointy stick." The cadence of knocking, that specific rhythm we all instinctively follow, also had a purpose. It was a way to differentiate yourself from an animal trying to get inside, or a storm battering the door. It was a rhythmic signal that a human being was on the other side. Over the years, the knock evolved into a polite signal, then a knocker was added, and eventually the push-button doorbell. But at its core, the doorbell is just the lazy, automated version of you yelling, "Is anyone home? Don't stab me. Let me know if you need anything else." Here's the text exactly as you provided. Number 6. Chewing gum. Chewing gum is one of those habits that feels so modern. It's the sound of a movie theater, the classic high school locker room, and the go-to nervous tick for 1 million people on 1 million first dates. It seems like a frivolous recent invention, but the truth is, humans have been chewing on things for a very long time. In fact, a 9,000-year-old piece of chewing gum made from birch bark tar was found in Sweden. We've been at this a while. The history of chewing gum isn't just about minty fresh breath. It's a fascinating look at our species' endless need for oral stimulation. For the ancient Greeks, it was mastic tree resin. For the Mayans, it was chicle, a tree sap. The point is, these wasn't for fun. These substances were chewed to freshen breath, clean teeth, curb hunger during lean times, or just to occupy the jaw to fend off boredom. It was a practical, almost medicinal habit. Then came industrialization, and the whole thing got a total upgrade. Modern gum is largely made from synthetic rubber and a cocktail of sugars and flavorings. We took an ancient survival mechanism and turned it into a sugar-free, mass-produced product that we chew when we're bored, stressed, or just want our mouth to taste like a cool breeze. We've gone from chewing tree sap for survival to chewing synthetic plastic for a 5-calorie sugar rush, and we call that progress. Number 5. Why we yawn. It's one of the most contagious and embarrassing things a human can do. Someone in the room lets out a big dramatic yawn, and before you know it, you're doing it too. For years, people thought yawning was a sign that you were tired or that your brain needed more oxygen. But modern science has thrown a wrench in that theory. Turns out, yawning is actually a brain cooling mechanism. It's like a car's radiator for your skull. A deep, wide yawn with a big inhale of air sends a rush of cooler air through your sinuses, which in turn cools the blood flowing to your brain. This helps regulate the brain's temperature and keeps it functioning optimally. So you're not yawning because you're tired. You're yawning because your brain is running a little hot, and it's sending out a biological SOS to cool down. And why is it so contagious? Because it's a form of social empathy, a kind of unconscious group behavior. When a primitive human saw another yawning, it was a subtle signal to the group that it was time to change activity or settle down for the night, keeping the entire group's energy levels in sync. So that contagious yawn isn't a sign of boredom. It's a primal, subconscious signal that you and everyone around you are just a bunch of overheated brains trying to cool themselves down at the same time. Number 4. Holding hands. You've seen it a million times. Couple walking down the street, 2 kids crossing a busy road, or a parent comforting a child. We're an advanced species that can build skyscrapers and launch rockets into space, but we still communicate a profound sense of connection and safety by simply grabbing another person's hand. But why? This seemingly simple act is a deep-seated habit rooted in our biology and psychology. The moment you hold another person's hand, your brain releases a powerful neurochemical called oxytocin. This bonding hormone has an immediate calming effect, reducing the level of the stress hormone cortisol in your body. It's a direct physical way of saying, I'm with you, and you're safe. It's an instinctive habit that goes all the way back to our time as small primates clinging to our mothers for survival. That need for physical contact and a feeling of security is hardwired into us. It's why children naturally reach for a parent's hand, and why as adults we seek that same feeling of safety and trust from a partner. So you're not just holding hands, you're engaging in a subconscious, primate-level negotiation for emotional safety and reduced cortisol levels. Number 3. Why we wave. It's one of the first things we learn to do as babies. You lift your hand and shake it back and forth to greet a friend, say goodbye, or acknowledge a stranger from across the street. The wave is a simple, universal gesture. But like the handshake, it's not just a friendly hello. It's an ancient, long-distance signal of peace. Think about what a wave really is. It's a very public display of an empty, open hand. You're signaling to another person that you are unarmed and mean no harm. This gesture was crucial in a time when you couldn't tell from a distance whether the person you were approaching was a friend or a foe. Raising an empty hand was a way of saying, I don't have a weapon. I'm a friend. You can lower your guard. It was a critical survival tool, a nonverbal language that could prevent an unnecessary conflict. The wave became a way to establish a baseline of trust before getting close enough to talk. So that friendly wave you give to a neighbor is just a centuries-old long-distance signal saying, don't worry, I don't have a spear, and I hope you don't either. Let me know if you need anything else. Here is the text exactly as you provided. Number 2. The high five. The high five is the ultimate symbol of victory and camaraderie. It's how you celebrate a big win, acknowledge a shared success, or just give a quick burst of positive energy. But unlike the handshake or the wave, which have ancient origins, the high five is a surprisingly modern invention. The history of the high five is a bit murky, but the most widely accepted story credits two baseball players from the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1977, Dusty Baker and Glenn Burke. During a pivotal game, Dusty Baker hit his 30th home run, and as he crossed the plate, Glenn Burke greeted him not with a handshake, but with an enthusiastic, open-palmed slap above their heads. The high five was born. It's an evolution of the handshake, but with a completely different purpose. The handshake is about establishing trust and showing peace. The high five is about sharing in a moment of victory. It's a physical exclamation point, a moment of shared joy that transcends language. It's a nonverbal way of saying, "We did it. We're in this together." The high five became a cultural phenomenon because it filled a void. We needed a way to physically celebrate collective success without the formality of a handshake. It's the ultimate evolution of the handshake, where instead of proving you're not a threat, you're just confirming that you and your friend are both awesome. Number 1, the habit of tapping. We've all done it. You're sitting in a meeting, waiting for a friend, or just bored out of your mind, and you start tapping your fingers on the table or your foot on the floor. It's a rhythmic, repetitive motion that feels like an uncontrollable nervous habit. But what if I told you it's not just a sign of impatience? It's your body's quiet, subtle way of calming itself down. This nervous tapping is a form of self-regulation. Your nervous system, which is constantly on high alert, has an excess of energy it needs to burn off. Tapping, fidgeting, or bouncing your knee is a way to discharge that low-level anxiety. It's like a pressure release valve for your brain. These repetitive, rhythmic movements have a grounding effect, acting as a kind of self-stimulation that helps you stay focused and centered in a stressful or boring situation. Think of it as a physical outlet for mental tension. It's your body's way of saying, "I'm a little overwhelmed, so I'm just going to burn off this nervous energy right here." So that tapping isn't a sign you're impatient. It's your body's private, rhythmic version of a full-blown panic attack. Let me know if you need anything else.